Phil Phails at philosophy. What the heck could it be? Life such a mystery. Phil Phails.
Welcome to Phil Phails. Phil Phails at Philosophy Book Club. Returning guest Grant Potts, or really returning partner in crime, Grant Potts. Today we're talking about the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
And I've got a different cover.
Yeah, we've got two different covers for y'all.
Yeah, this has a lot of covers. It's been in print since like, what, 91?
Yeah, this is, let's see. Paulo Coelho. Am I pronouncing his name right? Paulo Coelho?
Yeah, I looked up. I think I saw the phonetic spelling is Y-O-O, so Coelho.
Coelho.
Yeah, but I don't know how accurate that was.
I'm trying to find the copyright for you guys so we know when this was released. It was published in 1998.
98.
Wait, a previous paperback edition was published in 94. This book is an English version of O Alchemista, the Portuguese original edition published in Brazil by Editorial Rocco Limited, Rio de Janeiro, copyrighted 1988.
Yeah, I think this one says the English version is copyright 93, so that's probably when it was first published.
Yeah,
in English. So,
but the book itself was written in 1988.
Right. And
then it's been translated probably in a bunch of different languages.
Yeah, you'd read this before, right?
Before today,
yeah. But
I had heard about it. People in my life had mentioned this book a lot, but I had never read it.
Okay, so we're in the same boat.
We're in the same boat. Yeah,
yeah. Because I had a similar. I remember it was when I was in college, and it was right after, because I went to college between 92 and 96. There were just a number of people in my life at that time who had picked this up at the time, and they were just like, oh, this is amazing. You need to read it. I was also reading a variety of books kind of in this, I don't know how you describe the genre, but a genre about kind of like a spiritual or personal journey with a guide, right? Some mentor figure or something like that. It was kind of like, and I was intrigued by that narrative structure, but I never got to it. And then over the years, so there were a lot of people when I was in college who had read it and celebrated it. I just encountered a lot of people who similarly celebrated it.
Would this be in the same pantheon of books like The Teachings of Don Juan?
I mean, that was the kind of genre. I think it's a little different.
It is different.
Right.
The Celestine Prophecy.
Yeah, which I had not read, but that came out around the same time. Actually, this was I remember, because people who were reading this were like, this is what the cool people read.
Oh, it is.
The Celestine Prophecy is for suburban housewives.
Oh.
This is the real stuff.
This is the straight, this is the
this
good
is what
stuff.
Bohemian college students read. But yeah, so I've been intrigued to read it for years, and was happy with the opportunity to do so with you.
Yeah, me too. Because when it's been mentioned so much in my life, I've heard it so many times, it felt like, well,
yeah,
the universe kind of wants me to check this out.
Did it hold up?
I think so. I enjoyed it. What I want to start with is I want to start with reading some quotes from The Alchemist.
Okay.
Just so we can give people an understanding of who we're talking about and what we're talking about, and just give a little fun opener. So I'm just going to tell the internet to give me quotes from...
Oh, yeah, you're just give me some quotes.
Alchemist. Yeah, I didn't write any down. I can think of a couple. But yeah, and they'll give it to me because they're popular ones.
That's part of why when I was reading through this, I was like, why was this so meaningful to so many people?
Yeah.
I think part of it is whatever's going on with the larger framework. It is a book that has these 2-3 sentence meditations, quotes. Is very quotable, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I think a lot of people read that and they're like, oh, that line really speaks to me. That thought really speaks to me. And it's kind of full of those kinds of idiomatic extractions, right?
Within the context of a classic hero's journey.
Yeah, although kind of in a different way because of the way it ultimately resolves, right? Because the spoiler alert.
Hey, spoiler alert. We're going to talk about this book.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to talk about the things that happened in this book. We're going to talk, and we're not going to, so this is whole video spoiler alert.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Spoiler alert.
If you want to help whatever class you're taking, we want you to read the book, though. Read the book, but this can help you because we're going to go over it.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. But I find the kind of like journey to the thing and then the discovery that the thing is not the thing, but you got to go back home to get the thing.
Well, the thing was there all along,
Right, exactly.
inside of himself,
Right.
hidden in plain sight.
Which is basically what everyone's telling him the whole time is like, dude, it's just you. Like, you got this. Right?
Yeah. Okay, you ready for some quotes?
All right, quotes.
Here, I'm just gonna this one from the back of the book. I'll start with. It's a beautiful image there with the moon, and it's radiating kind of like as if it was the sun. And the quote is, "To realize one's destiny is a person's own obligation." That's agency. I mean, it's basically saying like you got agency.
Yeah, although it's a weird kind of way of thinking about agency to me. I mean, like the notion, I guess like this is a thing that I find interesting to think about with it, because it does, like, this kid's journey to freedom, right? This kid's journey to agency is all caught up in this narrative of destiny. Like, you've got
personal legend.
You've got this thing to do.
Right.
And you gotta just listen to it and respond to it, which I don't know. Like that's,
so
I
we're
resist
playing
that.
with two things. We're playing with fatalism or destiny, or like that everything. This gets into that question of, is everything already planned out for you?
Mm-hmm.
What, and then on the other side, you got this quote that's like, it's your obligation. So if you have an obligation to do something, that means it's not all laid out for you. It's not destiny. It's not fate. It's determined by the choices you make.
Right, because if you've got an obligation to do something, the only way you can have an obligation to do something is if there's the alternative to not do it.
You could not do it.
Right.
You've got a choice point.
Right. You can't be obligated to do things that you're going to do inevitably or are impossible for you to do. Right.
So this is like, they're both coming together in a real, like, interesting way of.
And I'm never convinced that the destiny narrative is real. I mean, it is in the story to some extent because of the way it plays out, but that's what he's talking about. It's almost like throughout the whole book, I keep thinking like it's more about, hey, life is stressful. You're going on crazy journeys. You're going to get robbed by thieves in the desert.
You're going to get beaten up.
You're going to get beaten up. Like all the things are going to go
taken advantage of.
And the best way to operationalize your life is just to assume that you've got something you got to go to.
Yeah, personal legend.
And that the universe is guiding you there, even though that's probably BS, right?
Yeah.
But it just, it gets you through the day. It helps you make the right choices. It helps you not collapse into, I mean, if you go back to Santiago's sort of original space, right? He's a shepherd. And part of what I find interesting is he's relatively content.
He seemed content.
Right? It's not that
he was influenced.
Right. It's not that he's like leading this miserable life.
No.
It's just a very quotidian life, right? It's
what life?
Quotidian, like
quotidian.
Like day to day.
For everybody out here who doesn't know the definition of quotidian, which is probably 99% of y'all. Grant's gonna.
I bet more of you know quotidian than me.
Go ahead.
Or
put it in the comments if you know quotidians.
Right.
He's gonna define it for us right now.
Yeah. So this I mean, just everyday, regular, day to day life, right? That's
okay.
Yeah. So it's not exciting. It's not an adventure. It's not seeking your destiny. It's a householder life, right? If you go back to that kind of classic Buddhist householder versus yogi, it's a householder life. And then he's got to mess it all up to kind of go on this journey. Although I think he ends up back there.
He does, because that's where the treasure was.
Right, where the treasure is, and he's kind of retreating that life. And then it ends with him like getting the girl.
He gets the girl.
Which I found like, I'm just like, come on.
He gets the treasure, he gets the girl.
Did you have to make this a Hollywood movie? Like, come on. The whole Fatima thing seemed like this sort of like
the Fatima,
the kind of subplot that like the producers put in because they're like, it's not going to sell if we don't have a romance.
Right. That's right. I read this book in a couple different ways. I audiobooked it. I read a graphic novel of it,
Oh, you read the graphic novel.
which was pretty cool. I wanted pictures.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it seems like the kind of narrative. Was it done well? Was the art good?
I thought so.
Yeah, because it lends itself to that, and that's
Some of the artwork seemed to be like tailored for a male audience, especially the first scenes about Narcissus and the angels, or those people that came. They were full figured.
they were really sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like
Yeah.
Jessica Rabbit of, yeah, they like, it was good. I enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, okay. But that was it. The rest of it seemed to be really just normal. I don't know
Right.
why they like,
They had to, like,
they wanted to hook in the guys on the first chapter. Like, they're going to benefit from
it was
this.
published in the 90s.
Let's get 'em-
like
let's get 'em
comic
in.
books were all about that in the 90s, or graphic novels. Yeah.
Okay, next quote. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it.
Yes.
Which I've heard this quote. I heard it. One of the first things I did in this production thing is I helped produce a podcast for Bob Peck, and he interviewed this guy, and they were talking about a bunch of stuff, and this quote came up. I think it was like, follow your dream. And this is
Right.
like, you need to start on that path. And then I guess what it means to me is, if I start projecting out my dream, if I start projecting out the life that I am, if this is what I am, not this is what I want to be. If I say this is what I am, the world will see me as that, and then give me communications and offers and come to me for that assistance when they need it. So then I'll gradually go towards a professionalism in that, or a career in that, because I'll slowly be seen as that and then asked to contribute in that way.
But do you think that's what that quote is saying? Because it's not about who you are, it's what you want.
Let's see. Let's read it again. When you want something, all the universe. Yeah, you're right. When you want something, I think you got to do more than just want it.
Yeah.
This seems to not let this person put much skin in the game. Oh, I just got to want it.
Yeah. Although it's a very inspiring thing to say to someone who's like, man, I really want this, but I'm not sure if I should go for it. And you can be like, if you want something, the whole universe conspires to make you succeed.
That's what it did to me.
And you're like, oh yeah, I should go do it. I should
go
like,
do it. Yeah,
I should quit my job and go see the pyramids. And
But really, it's like,
it's true in as much as it's effective in instantiating that change in state that's needed for you to do the thing you want.
but it's baloney.
But it's baloney.
What it should be, what they should say is, when you start doing the thing and not getting paid for it for a while,
Hit home a little.
all the universe eventually will like start paying attention, and
Right.
And they'll help you out.
Yeah, a little bit
People
here
that
and there.
you need here and there enough, and then a part of the universe is gonna put
then-
some negative comments
Yeah,
in your
and then there's thieves in the desert that beat you up and take your stuff.
yeah. And someone with a glass shop that'll end up you'll be working for years and years and years, and kind of like a seeming like wasted time,
Right.
but probably wasn't, because it's that experience of helping someone, and he realized some confidence through that.
Well, I mean, yes, and I think that's the thing, is it's like, it is the hero's journey in that, like, the journey is irrelevant. It's fundamentally irrelevant. The treasure, the goal, what you want. Like, what he wants is this treasure.
Right.
Like,
He
this
wants the treasure.
This lady said there's a treasure for you, and it's your obligation to go find
He's got to
it.
give her 10%.
Right.
Right.
And he goes and he does that. And, at times he's got like the equivalent of the treasure, and he could go back. Like when the alchemist makes the gold and divides it up into 4 portions.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he could have just taken that gold and been like,
He'd been
"Hey,
good.
I got some treasure.
Yeah.
Like it's not where you said to go, but and then he gets there and it kind of works out, but it's also a lot. And I just remember at the end, like, I think he's talking to the alchemist and he's like, the treasure wasn't there. I had to go, but like he's digging for the treasure and I got to go home. And I think it's at that point, but they basically say, well, you got to see the pyramids.
What they're saying is experience is your teacher,
Right.
and you had to have this journey in order to realize
Right.
that home was where the gold was.
Right. But also just like, yeah, like,
He had a great life. He had to run around to realize that the
Right.
great life was great.
right. And I do think to that extent, you've got an interesting thing to ponder here. It's like in the ancient Greek world, you find this debate happening across different texts in Greek literature about when you know that you're happy and when can you know you've had a good life.
Yeah.
And and what emerges is this common idea that you don't know you've been happy. You can't judge that you've had a happy life. You can't judge that you've had a good life. And again, when we're thinking happiness here, think happiness in terms of like eudaimonia, right?
Eudaimonia.
You had a full, rich, not kind of momentary happiness, right? So you don't know that until you die, because you could have this great life and you could do things, but you just don't have that perspective till you're at the end of the narrative,
the arc, what it was
to look
like,
back on the whole thing. And to some extent, that also then reframes things, so you can say, and you see this emerge, like, how can you evaluate the thing that you are trying to decide what to do if at the end of life, if at your deathbed, you looked back, what choice would be the one you would regret? What choice would be the one you would celebrate, right?
Yeah, there's folks that interview elderly people right before they die, and they say, what's your biggest regret? And they would say the things I didn't do.
Yeah, it's interesting because, a few years ago, like 10 years ago, I taught this book called In the Course of a Lifetime, which I really love this book. And it's part of a larger series of studies that came out of this like one of the largest longitudinal human development studies, which is very hard to maintain and do. But basically, they had two different cohorts of people. I think the first started in the 30s and the second in the 50s. It was out of Berkeley. Like, it moves between research centers who does this, because like basically they just tracked these people from teenage years and interviewed them about their life. It's a human lifetime study, right? And they did these 20 hours of interview about their life. And then 20 years later, the same researcher or their student or another researcher came along and said, all right, let's get the funding to track these people down and say where you are at, right? And so that study produced this large volume of data on these two cohorts of people in California, from really teenagedom to elder life and death, right? So we have that data now. We have all that. And so there's a number of studies that come out of it. In the Course of the Lifetime was looking at human spirituality over the course of a lifetime.
Oh, okay.
Which is what I was interested. It was in it for an American religion class. So I was looking at kind of like, how do Americans experience spirituality and spiritual development and growth
through phases of life,
right? From a kind of social scientific perspective, right? That's what we were doing in the class. And it was interesting looking at elder years and what people did or didn't regret, and both what they did and didn't regret and what led to kind of the things that seemed to indicate contentment, etc. And most people didn't regret things they didn't do, right? You get those anecdotes.
They didn't regret things.
They weren't like regretful that I didn't go on that trip to Paris.
Okay. Yeah.
They were always most regretful about losing community. And again, similarly, like in terms of life outcomes,
using friendships, social things.
It was social networks. It was connections with people. It was actually the stuff that is probably the stuff you're going to develop better if you just stay in place and be a good shepherd, right?
Yeah.
Than going out on big adventures. But yeah,
investing in your community.
The community network was the key thing, and part of what I was looking at was religiosity. And you saw this sort of, when people retire, they tend to go back to church, right?
Because they get some time. Well, they're probably looking for community.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, is like initially people were like, oh, they're scared they're going to die and want to make sure.
No,
and
they've got a void of community that the job.
Void of community.
That the job left.
And they return to the church to.
That could be the job community. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it left a deep impression on me on how important, if we're and how important this was to all the other things that they looked at sort of for spiritual development.
Yeah.
Fellowship, sangha, like community, is actually probably far more important than how you pray, what you meditate, etc. Like those are part of what exists within the container of the community. But you need a community.
Yeah. And from a brain health perspective, when I was researching like dementia or Alzheimer's or things that would strengthen and exercise the brain, one of it was having a rich social network, because you hold all that in your brain and you constantly refresh it with new information about people. So it's like a car that you drive versus one that you leave in the garage. It's going to deteriorate faster. If you're using it, you're actually maintaining
and I'm sure that
it,
like, I don't want to dismiss too much like networking that happens remotely and whatnot, but to some extent, I'm sure that that's for brain health also about like the deep information that you get when you're interacting with someone one-on-one, when you're in a group, when you're navigating social environments.
Yeah.
And not just sort of like how many followers you have in a social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it probably is real. In a real life scenario, you get more fidelity.
All right. Another quote.
It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. It's the possibility
of having
this
is all tied to dreams. Have you ever had a dream and then said, I got to go do that because I had a dream?
No.
Neither have I. Like I read things about that, like where people have like in narratives.
I think they just use the word dream for something they want.
Right. But it's often in the narrative.
I don't think they actually dream it. They're not like, I'm managing 15 Starbucks regionally. Like, who has, I'm like, a gold in miner or something, and I find a bunch of gold. Or
I will say, when I was a kid, and I can't remember if it was like late adolescence, like late middle school or early high school, I had this crazy dream. And it was very vivid. And it was like some weird fantasy dream. I remembered like there were kind of scenes that were like in the woods near where I played, but were like kind of scenes of battle, like the Hoth battle in Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
Kind of like it had that kind of and there was just a lot going on like that. Like it felt like this sort of fantasy adventure. And I remember it kind of ended with all these kind of night dudes riding across this field.
That's a rich dream.
Right. And no, it was one of the most vivid dreams I've had in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And they just sort of like were riding across this field. And I was like disembodied by that point in the dream and just sort of an observer.
Mm-hmm.
And there were probably like a dozen of them. And they're kind of riding off into the distance across this field. And then as they kind of approached the end of the field, they like turned into planets and then just sort of elevated up into the night sky. And there was some like narrative voice that said something pithy like, and they will become as gods, or, I don't think that's what it said.
That happened in your dream?
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure it was just like under the influence of a lot of media. I think probably the thing I had most recently watched was Time Bandits that kind of probably shaped that.
Yeah.
But it shook me in this way where I do look back at my early development as a human being, and it's one of the things that kind of shook me out of kind of like, I'm on this train, I'm going to school, I'm going to go to college, I'm just going to do the thing and do the life and just...
It told you to find something higher?
Right, and something like somehow that shifted me into this like, it's a crazier, bigger, stranger world than I ever knew, and I want to be part of the strangeness.
Yeah.
I want to be part of the curiosity. I want to be part of. I want a life that I did through my younger, like coming out of that. I wanted a life that was beyond the quotidian, right? That was beyond being the
you
shepherd.
were called from your shepherd job,
right? Yeah, and so my 20s were a lot of adventuring, right? A lot of running around. I had a period of time for 3 months where my partner and I at the time took $300 in our car and headed to California and met our friend who was a musician and drove him around for 4 months. And he was doing house parties where he would just play music and we would drive him from venue to venue and we'd sell t-shirts and take donations and get enough for them,
Yeah.
and just sort of
Bohemian.
right. Lots of kind of that kind of life in my 20s. And I remember by my late 20s, like, cool, I pulled it off. Like,
yeah, you did it.
I could die now and I'm cool. And I have sort of been like, I don't want to die now, but that's more out of a sense of obligation to
Your adventures are over?
No, not necessarily. My drive for adventure is over.
Your drive for adventure.
Like I've had the adventures. There could be more adventures, but I'm definitely in a state of life where I'm more interested in building, right? I'm more interested in being. I'm more interested in
phase of life thing.
dwelling. I mean, yeah, I'm 51, right?
51.
Yeah, so like there's a level at which like we do have these phases of life. I do think like if you look at classic Hinduism, you've got the idea of the 4 phases of life, right? Where you start off as a student, and then you become a householder, and then you become a forest dweller, and then finally at the end of life you become a Shrimana, right? Someone who's really seeking enlightenment as their whole focus, right? And it's this sort of, I'm definitely in that householder phase, right?
Yeah.
And there's part of me that's like, maybe that, like, I don't know about that other stuff at the end. It's cool, but
yeah,
but
might not be worth the time, or it might not even be there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's here, right? It's always here. Anyway, next quote.
When we love, we always strive to become better than we are. When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. When we love I guess I could see this as a love for self. I don't want to think that we have to have some romantic thing to initiate self-improvement.
I don't think it's talking about romantic love, or maybe it is in the book. If this,
I guess you love anything.
Right. I mean,
you're going to want to serve, yourself and it.
I do think we have a deep poverty in our understanding of love in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we hear love, 98% of the time, we think romantic love.
That's right.
And romantic love is romantic love is great, right? And don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a very specific kind of love that seems doesn't seem well suited to be the template for love.
Yeah, because it's the smallest percentage.
Right.
If you're a monogamous person, or even if you're polyamorous, you're going to have 1 or 2 people in the world that you share that type of experience with, that type of love. But if you've got a rich social network, you're in communities, the vast majority of those people are going to be not romantic. And I would assume you'd experience love with them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think the love you have for your friends,
yeah,
the love you have for your kids and family, the love you have for your neighbors, and then just what that seems to be gearing toward is just sort of the love, not the love of yourself, but the love that is anchored in you expressing love. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not that you're loving yourself, it's that you're focused on yourself as a lover.
Yeah. So that you can better love.
That you can better love. And
because when you're in your optimal state, you're able to give more.
Right. And yeah, and so if ultimately that turns toward a love of the world,
yeah,
right? Kind of in that classic Christian framework of, he loved the world, etc., right? But if you embody that love of the world, which I think is so central to a lot of Christian mysticism and spirituality as it developed over the millennia, even though I think it's somewhat lost in a lot of Christianity today, that seems right.
It seems right to me.
Like you love, and what was it? The world becomes better.
When we love, we always strive to become better than we are. When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too.
Yeah.
It's kind of rising tides lifts all boats. If you improve your station everything around you is going to improve.
Yeah, and I think what's missing from that is the reality that when you're improving yourself, you're never improving yourself. You're improving your relationship to other things that yourself is in relationship
Yeah, that's
to.
right. Because everything is in relation.
And that's why
Relationship to your body, relationship
that
to
last
people.
bit, there's just sort of like a missing premise there about relationship.
Yeah. I watched a video that was talking about friendship, and that friendship in these years, in this current culture, has lost or diminished the devotional quality of friendship.
Yeah.
That there's not as much just ring someone up on the phone call and you pick up the phone and you answer. These people are, it seems like this place that we allow romantic people to ascend to. Previously, we would allow a lot of platonic relationships to ascend to that same level, and there would be a devotional quality to friendship, to...
Yeah, I think there has been a disservice to things like friendship and to community in general by an over-focus in a lot of self-help literature and a lot of modern therapeutic approaches that really focus on the health of the person from this very egoistic framework.
Yeah.
And really treats friendship as this sort of transactional experience. What is that friend doing for you? If they're not serving you, then cut them out. Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's a healthy dimension to that is about toxicity. Right.
Right.
You know, but that's migrated to where I see people in my life that I'm friends with and they're having troubles like maintaining their networks. But part of what I'm seeing is they're like, that person, you know, what they're describing is really fundamentally annoyance or imperfection. Like, and they're kind of classifying it as like, well, that's not serving me. And that lacks that devotional element. Right?
Yeah.
That devotional element is about
Acceptance.
being there when it's not just for you.
Yes.
Right. And ultimately, I think being there when it's not just for you serves you in the larger picture better. So there is kind of potentially an egoistic drive at the end of it, although I don't think you can anchor there, right? Because if you do, then you begin to micromanage things. And,
right.
Yeah. So, and you lose the forest for the trees, for, you know, if we're going to speak in idioms. But yeah, I think that's true. I do think when I look at my life, and maybe there's something developmental here too. I have friends, you know, when I went and visited my friends in Portland, you know, these are long-term friends. And I think of one of my friends, my friend Amanda. Part of what I realize I love about her and feel so devoted to her is because she comes from an approach to friendship like that. Like there are people, you know, that like, you're like, hey, I need you right now. And I feel like if I really was in that space and she had the capacity to be there, she would be there. Right. You know?
Right.
And all the friends I visited there are those kinds of friends, but it's hard to develop those kinds of friends now. And I don't know if that's because it's hard to develop those kinds of friends when you're
older
at this stage
stages
in
of life. Yeah.
Or if it was because the culture of friendship has shifted, or both, right? It's
Probably
likely both.
Probably both.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other things. But yeah.
But I worry about trying to overmanage your friend environment. Like the number of people who I've talked to, including people very close to me, who are like, I don't like when people stop by unannounced. Because it feels like this intrusion and there's part of me that's like, that day when you're sitting around and a good friend just stops by, that's a gift. That's a joy.
Yeah, I remember riding my bike by you guys' house, and y'all just be out there gardening or something, and then I'd pop over and have a chat.
Yeah, and I do think like that was
cool.
During the pandemic, and during the pandemic, there was this sort of like, because the networks closed down so much and became so localized, and like you were outside a lot more. And, like there was a kind of renewal of that. And then we kind of lost it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of things I think we reconnected with in that space that people have gone back, like, well, we're through it. Let's go back to life as normal. It's just like, wait, there was some good stuff there.
It reminds
we should bring
me
it
of
back.
growing up in suburban Houston on a cul-de-sac, and the power goes down.
Right.
And it's not because of weather.
Right.
So the power's out, and then one by one, people come out of their house, and then they start talking.
Right.
And then, like, is your power out? No, is there power out? No. And then there's something.
And then suddenly you have community.
You have community.
Right.
And then the power comes back on, and people go back in their caves, and the magic that's there doesn't continue.
Right. Well, and that's interesting. I mean, this isn't about friendship, but going back to the book, right?
Yeah.
When Santiago, like, why does Santiago have to leave? Like, why does he
Good
have
question.
And I think part of it is
it that gypsy that told him that? Oh, he had the dream, and he asked the gypsy to interpret the dream.
Right, but that's the trigger, right? Why for the point of the book does he have to leave? Right.
He didn't have a partner, companionship.
Maybe does he need that? He's got a sheep.
Well, he wanted that vendor's daughter.
Right, and
he wanted the merchant's daughter.
And it's funny because he's got this whole like story he tells himself about why it won't work out. We have no idea. There's nothing in the book that says it would have or would not have worked out
with the merchant's daughter.
With the merchant's daughter, right? Like that's
I think
that's just the story he was telling himself.
The message I got was, he didn't think he was high enough status to get.
And that could have been totally irrelevant. Like, we just don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. So maybe it's to find love. Maybe it's to. But I think at the end of the day, all of that is his life is insufficiently complicated. His life has insufficient trial.
Right.
And
it needs to be tested.
To some extent, he needs to figure out who he is by going and putting himself in situations that are uncomfortable,
novel situations
that are dangerous.
Yeah,
and in the narrative of the book, they become truly dangerous. Like, by the end of the book, he's like trying to.
He and the Alchemist are trying to like. He doesn't make wind happen. He's gonna die.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's pretty crazy.
And there's like a war going on. Like, like everybody's like, we don't go over where you are because there's a war.
There's a war.
Right. And he's got to get through that to get to the. So there's a level at which I do think that shift away from the day to day opens you up to possibilities, whether it's meeting your neighbors.
Well, it's just doing new and different things, making different. If you always get on the bed up on the left side, get up on the right side.
Right.
Making new choices in your world will open up your mind and also your kind of social availability, or just through different new rituals, what'll change.
Right.
If I ran into a buddy of mine at the Barton Springs. I've been swimming in the mornings, and he said he was going to an animist workshop.
Nice.
And I was like, what is animist? I don't know anything about this. And he gave me a little synopsis of it that, like, there's spirits, everything has energy and everything has spirit. So if like you've been giving the left side of your bed spirits a lot of attention, and you give your right side of your bed spirit, I'm having a hard time saying this, attention, things will change. Like some energy will shift just by moving that way versus that way, or, some kind of magical new path that you create in your house. We probably, if we zoomed in and looked at the little paths like a dog makes in a backyard, if we looked at our house, there probably are these same trails of the routine and rituals that we do every day. Break those up. What happens?
Right.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Let's start with the beginning. We're going to go through the book now, kind of piece by piece, and however we do it.
Right.
But it starts with this Narcissus, Narcissus story.
Yeah.
Right? Which I want to talk about why that's important. Because he talks about Narcissus going to the lake or the lake, and looking at his image until he falls in and drowns. And in that space, a flower blooms, right? And then the forest gods and the two of these lady gods come and talk to the lake about it. You remember this?
I mean, I know the Narcissus story. I'm trying to remember where it is embedded in the book.
It's at the very beginning. It's the very beginning.
Arrived as herd and abandoned church. He swept. Oh,
The Alchemist picked up a book that someone in the caravan had brought. Leafing through the pages, he found a story about Narcissus.
Yeah, it's from the book. I forgot that. Man, whatever happens with that thicker book he gets later. Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
So it starts out with this tale of Narcissus. This lake had been transformed into a saltwater lake because of all the tears of the lake goddess. But they asked the lake goddess, "Hey, why are you crying? Are you crying because we lost this beautiful man?" And the lake goddess is like, "No, I'm crying because I saw myself in the eyes of the beautiful man." Right? Isn't that what it was? I weep each time he knelt beside my bed. I could see in depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected.
Mm-hmm.
I could see in the depths of his eyes. That's why she wept, because she could no longer see the depths of her own beauty reflected back to her.
Because she saw.
So she lost her love, her view of herself through him, his ability to reflect it back to her. And I guess I related that to, it's really important that we're around good people that see the good in us, because they will influence you. And so you want folks that can reflect back your best traits. It's before part 1. It's really literally the first page. Prologue. Oh wait. Yeah, it's in the prologue.
Oh, hey man. That's interesting.
Did you read the prologue?
No.
Oh, you skipped right over that bad boy.
No. No, this is when was this? This was published in 1994, so right after it was released. There's no prologue in my edition.
There's no prologue?
Yeah, that's why I'm like, what is this thing with the Narcissus?
Oh, so you didn't even get that part.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting that like there's this like it's clearly like you're right. It sounds like something that's really framing things.
It's framing the whole story
that he added later.
What? Why would he do that? So he thought it would be important to frame it this way.
Or who knows? It may have been a publication decision by the translator or whatnot. Maybe it was in the original Portuguese and didn't get in until a later edition. I'm intrigued by that. Yeah, that there's this prologue that is not in this early edition that's in later editions.
Yeah, these other creatures, these other what do they call them? The angels or goddesses of the forest. The goddesses of the forest came and said, like, why do you weep? And the lake says, I weep for Narcissus. And then they said, oh, because he was so beautiful. And the lake said, like, was he beautiful? Like, I didn't even notice that. And the nature goddesses were like, you would know this. He sat by your banks and you saw him so much. And then the lake goddess said, I wept because... Can
you read the direct quote?
He says, I weep for Narcissus, but I never noticed that Narcissus was beautiful. I weep because each time he knelt beside my banks, I could see in the depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected.
Is the lake goddess weeping for joy or sadness? In that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would think sadness.
I mean, well, they're weeping because he's so beautiful. So again, it's sort of like this being overwhelmed.
Yeah. It doesn't specify. I guess I assume it's sadness. Get into the story. Why do you think this is important to frame the whole?
Well, it's interesting because, like, yeah, so Narcissus is looking at the lake.
He falls in and drowns. He sits there for a long time.
Right. And he's enamored with his own beauty as the classic.
He loves his beauty.
Right. But she is seeing, as he looks at her own beauty in him.
Yes.
Right.
Reflected back to her.
Right.
Yes.
And maybe if there's a weeping of sadness, it's that's gone because he fell in the lake.
Because the lake can no longer see its own beauty.
Right. Because
there's not a relation.
Right.
So when we travel the world and meet people, we get opportunities to have our own beauty reflected back at us through the people we meet and relate to.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a curious one
It's a curious one.
because he falls in and dies. Like the whole Narcissus myth is not.
He falls in and dies.
It's not supposed to be a good thing, right? It's a lesson about his own vanity,
Right.
right?
It's a lesson about vanity.
And kind of this weird thing in that, like, there is a beauty that captures you so deeply. And if you're that beauty and you look at yourself, you can get captured by yourself. Weird, yeah. But the lake is...
It doesn't seem to make sense with the rest of the story. So I've done mental gymnastics to make it make sense. It just seems like this beginning thing that's there almost separate from the tale.
Yeah, I wonder if like part of it is like the tale was too simple and people were taking away too easy a lesson from it. And so he was like, I'm going to write something to like shake this up a bit.
Shake it up.
Like, let me clarify. It's not as easy as you think it is.
Yeah.
You know, like,
All right. Into part 1.
do you know he said he wrote this in 2 weeks?
Really?
Yeah.
You think he was channeling the universe?
I mean, that's his story. Is like, I wrote it in 2 weeks because like I just was, it was already written.
It was written and it was being provided to him like some
Right.
kind of Course in Miracles type of thing.
Right. Yeah. I didn't get the impression he was like saying it was like channeled, but that like that it was artistically inspired, at least, if not spiritually inspired. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Dang. He wrote a hit in 2 weeks. Goodness. So he has a dream.
He has a dream.
He has a dream, right? And then he takes this dream to the gypsy lady.
Right.
Which I don't know the gypsy's the proper nomenclature now. Probably Romany.
Yeah. I mean, it's a slur.
Traveling.
Yeah.
Romany travelers. What would be the appropriate... What do you call? I guess we would have to know who they are, where they're from, what they're doing.
I mean, part of the problem with
Gypsy's
the term,
a pretty tough word.
right, is that it's a slur for the Romani, but it's also like used generally for a whole set
Irish
of
travelers
and whatnot. So yeah, I think it's both a history of insult and persecution and not accurate,
right?
Because of the way it's used.
I used to say you gypped me.
Right.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah, I didn't even until I was like I think it was like in my late 20s or it was when I was in grad school. Because I grew up in a culture that used gypped and Jew.
Use Jew
as a verb that meant to get cash.
Oh, you Jewed me.
Right. And it was like I didn't even know. Now, early in life, by about like adolescence, I realized that using Jew as a verb like that was just nonsense.
Yeah.
Right. But like my childhood was, I mean, I grew up in a Klan town. So
yeah.
My childhood was people using terminology like that all the time, but I didn't realize it with gypped until, I remember a moment just being like, wait, and then confirm.
That means gypsy.
Right.
So what are we doing? Yeah.
But so he goes to this classic figure of someone on the margins of society,
right,
from kind of
shaman type
European society, that then who knows about things that are weird because they're on the margins of
your palm reader, your fortune teller. I can build the whole caravan in my mind right now. Right.
And yeah.
And she wasn't going to pay her. He'd have the money to pay her, right?
Right.
And that's why she was like, just give me 10% of whatever you find.
Right. Which is an interesting hook because, like, if you say that as a soothsayer, you make it all the more real. Like you're saying, hey, give me 10% of what you get. Then that communicates to you, oh,
they believe in this.
This is,
they want that money back.
But she even explains to him, like, either, when I see things, sometimes they're real, sometimes they're not. If it's not real, a little bit of loss of time. If it is real, good payoff. Like she's got the return on investment going, right?
Go to Africa.
Right. Like go to Egypt, see the pyramids. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
There's treasure there for you.
And he's like, fair enough. Let's go.
She's just this agent of chaos traveling through Spain, sending young boys off on journeys when they should stay home and take care of sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, get out of here. I got other stuff to do.
Right,
You're not paying me anything.
Right. Like, exactly.
She's quick about it.
Right. But then he meets the next guy.
The older guy. He meets a female soothsayer or a female kind of wizardy person, and then a male wizardy person. And they both want different things. One's like, I'll take 10%. And the other one's like, hey, if I took a percentage of it, it would take away your desire to go get it because you'd realize that it wouldn't all be yours.
Right.
So you got to give me them sheep money.
Yeah.
You got to sell your
Yeah, I
sheep
want it
and
up.
give me the
I
money.
want it up front. Right.
Yeah.
I do find myself pondering these two figures. There's the male-female dichotomy
Right.
between the two figures.
And one was a king.
Well, and the King of Salem, he's a biblical figure,
Yeah.
right? So he is this biblical figure who comes back in a lot of Jewish folklore and even Christian folklore as kind of a figure who appears later and is this kind of like mystical figure who comes with ancient biblical wisdom.
So this comes with a backstory for him,
Right.
For it being that particular king,
Right. Yeah, and for a reader who knows that backstory.
right?
Right.
I didn't know that backstory, so it didn't grab me.
So there's a level at which you've got this kind of figure who's embedded in, if you're thinking of this from, I mean, he's Brazilian, but he's looking at this from a sort of Andalusian perspective, kind of Western European perspective. This figure who's this marginal figure who represents kind of sorcery and witchcraft
Yep.
and kind of, and then this other figure who represents royalty and biblical wisdom,
religion, yeah,
and conventional religion, but in this sort of mystical framework,
right,
both sending him on the same journey.
right.
This one saying, hey, go do the thing and bring some back. This one saying, give me something up front. It's an interesting kind of like to some extent, like the soothsayer, she's demanding less of him, because
right?
she's being more honest. Like, this may or may not work out. If it works out, I should have some goods. Whereas the King of Salem is like, yeah, he's got this narrative of like, oh, you wouldn't have motivation if you're given it, if it went, but really he's saying, give me some of that good cash from the sheep right now.
Right. Sell the sheep. You're going to have to sell the sheep anyway.
Right.
Yeah. I've thought about those two characters and wondered like what the importance of them were. And I guess it's like, maybe you need to do something from two different faces before it locks in. Like the soothsayer, she's the first one that says like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then the king, he's the second one. And that's like, okay, well, this makes sense to me.
Right.
Let's go.
Right. And he's providing the step, right?
Yeah.
He's basically saying, you're going to have to sell the sheep. I want 10% of that.
That's the first step.
And then once he sells the sheep,
he's at the point of no return.
Right.
Because he can't be a shepherd anymore.
It's like when you quit your job.
Right. You can't be a shepherd anymore.
Right. You've burned a bridge in order to make things move forward.
Yeah. You can't go back.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a scary place and decision to make.
Right.
You're stepping into uncertainty.
Right.
Everything you don't know how you're going to how you're going to eat. You don't know where you're going to sleep. You don't know how you're going to get from place to place.
Yeah. And then from there, where does he go after that?
He crosses the Strait of Gibraltar, right? And he goes to Morocco.
He goes to Morocco.
And that's where he's trying to get on a group of people going. He gets robbed.
Right. He's trying to get
from the guy. He trusts somebody who says like, hey, let me hold your money as they're going through the marketplace, right? Because he's going to pay the camel man or something. Right. And then the guy just disappears.
Right. So
the bartender tried to like warn him.
Right.
But I guess he just really wanted.
Well, and that's it. Like, if you want something enough, the universe conspires to make it happen. It seems like that's not what's happening here.
No.
Like, his desire is making him make bad choices.
Or I think maybe the universe would be testing him. Do you want it badly enough? Are you going to continue on this adventure even if I make it more difficult?
I mean, that's a good way to spin adversity when you hit it.
Yeah.
If your life philosophy is that the universe is conspiring.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, hey, you need to be tested along the way. And there'll be, on your journey, there will be 8 tests, know?
Right. Right.
And the first one is like, will you continue even if you don't have this money that you thought you're going to have?
Right.
How are you going to use your faculties, all of them, to travel from A to B?
And then he at that point, he gets caught up with the crystal salesman, right? Is there something?
Is that after that? Does he go?
Because that's how he kind of reconstitutes his resources.
And with the crystal person, he decides he could help them. Because if the crystals were out front, people would be more inclined to buy them.
Right.
He has a bunch of marketing ideas for this place.
And it's like straightforward stuff, but like it's just
It's
like,
business stuff. Yeah, the other guy seemed kind of like a bad businessman.
right.
Like from a marketing and like making things easy for the customer and cleaning them. He's like, he cleaned them first. He's like, I'll clean all these.
Well, and let's think about Santiago and his origin. Like, what is he? He's a very practical little dude.
Yeah.
He knew he didn't want to. What was it his family wanted him to do? I can't remember.
Oh no, yeah, because they gave him the money to get the shepherd, right? Because
there's a family business, and he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be outside with sheep.
Right. He wants to travel and be
But his dad gives him the money for the shepherd. I mean, to some extent, yeah, his life as a shepherd is about the desire he already has to travel and be in the world.
Yes.
But it's become, I guess, like what I'm getting at is like Santiago, when you kind of look at him in that origin and at these moments, he's a very practical little dude, right? He's making good decisions. He knows how to he knows how to take care of 100 sheep. There's a lot of practical wisdom that comes from that. So he's full of very good practical wisdom.
Yeah.
And in some ways, even though he has chosen the most impractical thing in life, I'm going to go find buried treasure somewhere around the pyramids because I had a dream and two people of questionable narrative, right? Like, they say this thing.
This is a con artist's dream. Like, con artists are looking for Santiago.
Right.
They're like, I've got this freaking plan. You're going to make it big in Egypt by the pyramids. Just give me some money.
Impractical, major decision. That gets him robbed. But it's his practical wisdom, his business sense.
Yeah.
It's and coming back again and again, like that does seem to be the case throughout the narrative. It's like, it's actually his practicality, his ability to be like, hey, this is how we solve this problem.
This is the thing that he takes with him that he can use anywhere to be of value.
Right. And that's what lets him go on this journey and discover that, his treasure's already back home.
Well, before we got away from this glass thing, there's a discussion about the owner of the glass shop having almost a duty to go on Mecca, a pilgrimage, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But he never does it.
Right, because it's too much.
He needs to keep doing the shop to go on it.
Right.
But it's almost like that awareness of this thing that he's not doing that reminds Santiago or, renews that, like, well, I have this journey I'm supposed to be on.
Right. Yeah, no, it's funny because I remember reading that and feeling like throughout the book that the pilgrimage to Mecca, because there's this interesting way in like, what's the religiosity of this book? What's the culture of this book? It seems, I mean, it's coming out of a Portuguese language novel from Brazil. It's very Andalusian. Like it seems in that cultural milieu and so influenced by Christianity and whatnot, but this history of Islam. And Islam sits around most of the journey because most of the time he's going on this
Morocco.
journey. He's encountering people who are Muslim, right? And that Islam comes up again and again. And to some extent, I did wonder, like, how much is this a non-Muslim writer kind of in their own idiom of a journey, of a hero's journey, meditating on the pilgrimage to Mecca and that kind of that spiritual obligation that exists in Islam to make this major journey, right? To go discover a treasure, right? The treasure
the spiritual
that you discover
treasure
is a spiritual treasure, which is sort of embedded so deeply in Islam that everyone needs to do that. I mean, and it's an interesting set of obligations because, you're obligated to pull it off at some point in your life if you're a good Muslim, but there's all these restrictions. Like you can't be in debt. You can't go on the pilgrimage to Mecca if doing so somehow puts your family at financial risk. Like you can't just leave your obligations of the world to go on this like he does, right?
Right.
Which is part of what is, I think, the merchant is wrestling with. But he's also young, so he doesn't have those obligations yet. I mean, he's got the obligation to the sheep.
That merchant should have gone when Santiago was holding down the fort.
Right. No.
That's what I kept thinking. Why didn't you just go while Santiago was doing such a great job?
And I think that's the point that seemed to be there, is that you can get caught up in that, like, I've got to take care of all these obligations. I've got to hold the home down. I've got to make sure that everything, to the extent that, yeah, that's important. But there's a moment where you have the opportunity and the merchant doesn't take it.
He didn't take it.
In the same way that Santiago, because he's young, because his major obligation is to take care of these sheep, but he can sell them to another shepherd.
Right.
And that shepherd will be happy to take it over, right? He's at a moment in life to give up those obligations. It's the right time. Maybe that's part of this sort of notion of destiny, is not about kind of a clear space that you're going, but a recognition of a moment in which you have a capacity to do a type of thing that can be transformative, that you have to take advantage of at that time.
Strike when the iron's hot.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
What's next? Did he get a ride? Is this when he goes and meets the... Oh, man. I'm struggling on the... I didn't refresh this before.
No, I didn't either.
I read it back when I thought we were going to talk about it, and I'm trying to put the sequence in order.
Does he do something before he gets to the oasis that's significant, or is that basically he heads on the journey and then eventually gets to the oasis? You're like, I can look up a summary.
I can, yeah. The Alchemist.
Isn't it amazing? Just pause a moment.
Yeah.
That you're basically carrying what was a supercomputer when we were growing up in your pocket now.
Dude, for real.
And he can just be like, hey, I wonder. On the flip side, I do find myself confused. Like if I'm out hanging out with friends and they're debating about something that's factual, I'm just like, why don't one of you just pull out your phone and look it up and solve this problem?
Events, order of events, series of order. Here it is, bam. Yeah, so
I'll do this old school while you're doing that.
Yeah, dude, old school. The Alchemist timeline.
So when we have these long pauses where you're looking something, do you edit those out or do you leave?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. He has the dreams. He asked his dad's permission to travel. He met the gypsy lady. Gypsies, obviously, we've already discussed that's not the appropriate. He talks to the king of Salem.
He left the bar. Oh, he meets the Englishman.
The old friendly man in the plaza of the town. After his talk with the interpreter, he gave something.
I remember he meets the Englishman,
the personal legend guy. Oh, that's the guy who was a reader who wanted to get things from books, but Santiago was like, "No, I'm going to get it from the experience."
Right.
So it was this like dichotomy between learn from books versus learn from action, and
right. When I found this, like the play between the Englishman and the alchemist, he actually meets, right? Because the Englishman has been spending a lot of time studying alchemy. And he's like, when I read the Englishman, like I'm like, having hung out in like the occult community and stuff, like he's like 25% of the people I've met in that community, right?
Right.
They're like really into the complexity of the books and collecting the, and getting and doing the alchemy and setting up the lab and like, right. And also know there's something, right? And he's very learned. And he's on this quest to find the alchemist too.
Right.
When he finds the alchemist, what does the alchemist say to the Englishman?
He wasn't ready for it, right? He wasn't.
I mean, he basically says, okay, now your next step is to go back home and do this basic first process.
Yeah.
Which you haven't done yet, right? Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
he doesn't take him on board.
It was basically like, go back home and learn how to turn lead into gold, and then you can come back and talk to me. Right.
Right. Because right. But he brings on Santiago.
And takes him.
Santiago, well, he gets mentored, right? About reading the sand dunes.
Right. No, and he does supply Santiago with kind of this whole world of alchemy, right?
Yeah.
And kind of the framework.
Because he didn't even know anything about an alchemist until then, right?
Yeah. And
then he's like, now he knows about an alchemist.
And he says, hey, in this one book, I read about this alchemist that had visited Europe, this Arabic alchemist, And he lives at the Al Fayoum Oasis.
Mm-hmm.
And people say that he's 200 years old and he is able to transform metal into gold.
Right.
And then they head out, right?
Right. And they talk. They
And-
talk along the way. Does he give him the book?
Yeah, and he's like, I don't get this book. And then he gives him the Urim and Thummim, those stones, the black stone and the white
Right.
stone.
Yeah, the two
Which he
stones.
kind of like, yeah, and those are a thing that come back again and again in like Mormonism, in the history of spirituality, and
So these stones have relevance beyond this book?
yeah, they're these kind of mythic stones that like let you interpret occult secrets or spiritual secrets, or
It's like the
they're like keys to
it's like the Mormons seer stone.
exactly. That's what I was thinking. And I do think they're identified because they're biblical as well.
Yeah.
They're identified with that in Mormonism, with these two in Mormonism as well. But again, in kind of Rosicrucian literature and stuff like that, you find this come back again and again in alchemical literature, that there are these seer stones that let you interpret and read things.
Yeah.
Here they're kind of like, he kind of like tries to work with them and then forgets about them and puts them away, and then they come out, like they fall out.
Didn't the robbers find them or
Yeah.
something? And it was like it meant something to them. It ended up playing a role.
They do come back, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're introduced as these kind of key things, but they're not that key
Yeah.
throughout. Which is part of what's interesting to me is there's a whole apparatus of spirituality around this journey. Whether it's
The King of Salem.
the King of Salem, the soothsayer,
the soothsayer, yeah.
the kind of biblical narratives that come in, the Islamic framework,
Going on the Mecca.
The alchemy with the philosopher's stone,
Yeah.
and these seer stones, and like all of these things they come in like they're important, right? They're these key things. This is the key to understanding. This is like this ancient alchemical text. And part of the lesson seems to be that they're kind of a necessary part of the landscape,
but
fundamentally unimportant.
Yeah.
Right. They're
You have to spend time with them, but they're not going to give you the answers. The answers are revealed through the time you spend.
Right. And it to a certain extent, it doesn't matter what of them you are. Like, this is really important to this person. This is important to this person. It may or may not be important to you. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately, the figuring it out is the journey that is teaching you the wisdom, which is like, if the treasure is anything, it's that. I don't think this book is trying to tell us, hey, go on crazy spiritual journeys across the world because it's going to make you fat cash, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not
true.
That's not the story here.
No.
Right? I don't even get the sense that when he comes back home to the treasure, there's not a lot of spending time on that. There's just
he doesn't talk about him buying a castle.
He's back home, and the treasure is he's probably got enough to make his life work, right?
And buy the sheep bag.
And go write Fatima and say, hey, I'm set up in Andalusia, come, or like I don't know, like if he's going to go back to the Oasis, because she was also kind of like, what? This is my home. Why would I want to leave here?
Yeah. And she's like, I'll let you go do your thing. That's what us ladies do.
Right.
We let our men go on adventures. And so the Englishmen seemed like a peer to his.
Right.
And I think I mentioned this before. It seemed like their major difference was book learning versus experiential learning.
Right.
And then...
although there is a level at which the book learning is important as a kind of experience, not the details, right?
Right.
The books are not
get you to the world. It gets you to the practice in life.
Well, and certain kinds of recognition that are like, here's the passage I'm thinking of. I guess it's on 83 in mine. They were very strange books. They spoke about Mercury, salt, dragons, and kings, and he didn't understand any of it.
Yeah.
But there was one idea that seemed to repeat itself throughout all the books. All things are the manifestation of one thing only. And that's what he comes back to again and again, is this monism, this sort of non-dualism.
Yeah.
That everything is interconnected. And metaphysically, like, so I take away this, like, it doesn't matter, right, what the journey is, etc.
Yeah.
The fatalism of it, I resist that. I mean, and I don't resist it totally. There's a way to think about this that makes sense to me. But the way we often think about fatalism is that, like, hey, there's this thing you got to get to, right? Right. And it's like, what's confusing about me is like it projects the future like it's a thing that's there.
Right.
But by the nature of being
when
the
you
future,
do it, you
it's
make
not.
it there.
Right.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't really matter. What matters is a recognition of the unity of things, that things come together in a way. But that, I mean, coming back to some of what you were saying earlier, what is it that unifies your experience? What is it that makes a world, a total world, a unity? I mean, if you think about it, the only common thing to all your experience is you.
Well, yeah.
It's that you're living a life. And yeah, whatever choices you make, those are the choices you make. And the world does what it's going to do. The world worlds, right? The world does its thing.
Yeah.
And you can either choose to embrace that and love it and live it and experience it in all its trials and celebrations, or you can choose to resist it and reject it.
Yeah.
And try to divide it up into these little pieces that you think are at odds with each other. And they are on some level, but on a certain level, they're not, because what unifies experience is you experiencing the world over the course of a lifetime.
Yeah, we're crunching the numbers in here.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We're making sense of it.
Right. And there's one life that takes place over time that is your thread in the universe, right?
Right.
And that's not just you crunching it at a moment, but the reality that you're making a journey through life that ultimately will result in your death.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a finitude to that. But there's something fundamentally real and unified about that. That's how I experienced that sort of sense of unity. I don't think that's what the Coelho is trying to say, right? Let me be clear. Like, I think he's got more of this kind of metaphysical notion that is there, I think, in a lot of the alchemical texts of kind of the one is the many and the many is the one, which I find is an interesting thing to think through, even if I don't read it in quite that fatalist way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
Tangent.
No, I'm chewing on that. The next place they get is the Oasis.
Yep. Then they get to the Oasis.
This Oasis, and that's where he helps the Englishman find the Alchemist.
Yeah, and then just spends a lot of time kind of in the drama of the Oasis and meeting Fatima.
Meets Fatima. Yeah.
And
it almost seems like he might stay there for a while.
Yeah.
He does stay there for a little while.
Yeah, he's there for a while, and there's kind of like, and then he meets the Alchemist eventually.
He does.
That's when he's at the Oasis. But the alchemy is south of the Oasis. Like, I don't remember exactly what happened. There was a sense in which the Alchemist meets the Englishman, but I don't think we ever see the Alchemist at that scene. If I remember, it's just that the Englishman met the Alchemist.
Right.
And then
like the Alchemist came up to Santiago almost, or is that one like?
Yeah, I can't remember if
Santiago
Santiago saw him then or later when he really encounters the Alchemist, if that's the first time he meets him. But at a point, that becomes a relationship that's important to. And again, this is also interesting. Santiago, we know his name's Santiago because he's introduced that way. And then the book, I don't think ever refers to him as Santiago again.
Really?
It just refers to him as the boy.
Oh, the boy. Huh.
So there's a level. When I finished it, I was like, does that boy have a name?
And you have to go to the front to remember that it's Santiago.
You're right. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that.
The boy.
The boy.
They're constantly bringing us back to his stage of life.
Yeah, even though
immature.
This seems to be years of journey.
It does.
Like he seems to be growing.
Yeah, he's at the glass shop for a long time.
But I think part of it again is if we're looking at that traditional Hindu 4 phases of life, there is a way in which he is in that he's in the student phase.
Right.
Right. He's here to learn, right?
Yeah, he's not mentoring folks. He's really finding out.
I mean, he's mentoring the crystal shopkeeper on practical things.
Yeah,
right?
but
not on the deep wisdom.
Right.
Yeah. So he meets the Alchemist and then
meets Fatima.
Meets Fatima, and then things get like, pretty crazy because the alchemist is a wonder worker.
He has a dream, right, about a war.
Right. And interesting. I hadn't even thought about the fact that that's another dream he has.
Another dream.
Like the first dream, but this dream is a dream that they're going to be attacked.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, no, we wouldn't be attacked because everyone has this agreement that we're like, this is a place where we don't attack.
Mm-hmm.
But we better take you seriously. And then he gets to that situation with, like, there's two times when the king is like, or the chieftain is like pretty brutal, right? He's like, so we're going to get all the weapons ready, even though it's against the rules because of your dream. And if they show up and they attack us, we'll be ready because you dreamt that you told us about this.
Yeah.
But we don't draw weapons unless we're using them.
Yeah. If they don't show up.
If they don't show up, we got to use them on
you.
We're going to use them on you.
It's like,
and he's like,
stakes are high, boy.
Right? He's like, crap.
Dang,
just because I
dude.
got a dream and I went on
I'm
this
just
journey.
sharing a dream, dude.
Right?
Why y'all gotta be so...
Well, and it was the alchemist who convinced him to go talk to share the dream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it was the Englishman, like one of them. But yeah, so he does that, and then luckily there's an attack, and they kill everyone.
Luckily.
Like, and it's like there's this. I find this scene weird because they're like, we hit all the kids, we hit all the women. They didn't see any of this go down, and no one would have known if there was attack, except there's like 500 bodies littering the oasis.
Oof.
Like, and I just thought about those kids and the women of the oasis that are supposed to be, insulated from all this, like coming out, like they're like, all right, all it's clear, and they come out and there's just these dead bodies of people who attacked, and they're like everyone else cleaning their knives.
Oh my God.
That's got to be its own kind of trauma.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and then they get it. How does it end up being that they decide that he has to turn into the wind?
He has to do that. Here, the alchemist and Santiago are caught by the tribesmen, where Santiago is asked to turn into the wind. I don't remember why.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think the alchemist told him told the tribesmen that he was a great man.
Right. Like that he's like, one of those
He's a magical
souls,
dude.
right?
Yeah.
And then he's got to turn, and then he
gets a couple days or something. He gets some
he's
time.
got like 3 days.
He's got to like think about it.
And then he does go into this like blown out, like super mystical. I talked to the entire universe, and I went and
he has something.
And I talked to like the hand of God, and
man, they're telling you you're gonna die if you don't turn it into wind.
Right.
You start talking to people.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what I would do if someone was like, hey, Phil, we need you to turn into wind.
It is crazy.
You got a couple days to get there.
Right. Yeah. This is crazy.
You tell 100 people to do that. I bet you 100 of them aren't going to be able to turn into wind.
Right.
But it'd be nice to find out what those 100 people did from the point where you told them they've got to do it or they're dead, and then
I don't know if it'd be nice. It might be interesting.
Yeah, it might not be nice. Like, how do they spend that time? Or were they like going into card catalogs from like they get some microfish out there? Like,
and I'm sure some of them are like, I'm not turning into wind.
Oh, they just like abandon it.
I'm not going to worry about this, and I'm just.
I got 3 days.
I got 3 days to live, so I'm going to like find the place. Whether it's like, I really just want to sit for 3 days and listen to some good jazz and chill out, or I want to go do that adventure. You
don't think a percentage of them are bound to want to figure out how to do this wind transfer?
Right. I mean, like if you were told that you had 2 months to live, and there was some seemingly impossible thing at the end that if you achieved,
you get to live.
You get to live. How would you react? Would you pursue that thing? Or would you say that thing's impossible?
I don't know. 2 months. What else are you gonna do? You might as well give it a shot.
Yeah, it's curious, right?
I don't know. Yeah, would you just go on an adventure, have fun, love?
And it's kind of that thing when you're facing death. How much of it is then the possibility of death? How much should you be fighting death, and how much should you be accepting it?
Yeah.
For the life you have.
And if you fought it, you might live longer.
You might live longer, but if you don't, if you spend all that time fighting it and you don't succeed,
longer,
then you lost the last 2 months of life to this useless endeavor.
How do you want to spend your days? Yeah, it's the journey and the friends you make along the way. So it's like, which one of those would best serve you? I mean, if you find that wind transformation protocol, like,
I mean, that's
you're set.
Yeah, I mean, not only did you get to live, but you also got to turn into the wind.
Which, that's pretty cool. And it says he did it, which I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. Santiago's conversation with the wind, the sun, heaven, and the hand that written it all, that written all. Yeah. And then after this, he finally makes his way to the Egypt, to the pyramids, and he's digging for them, and the folks come up and beat him and rob him. And they take the gold that he'd gotten from the alchemist. His cut.
You know, it's interesting. It never says he turned into the wind.
I thought he did turn into the wind.
That's implied, but it doesn't say that, right? So what happens, he learns to speak the language of the world.
Uh-huh.
And then the sun tells him to speak to the hand that wrote it all.
Mm-hmm.
The wind screamed with delight and blew harder than, the wind keeps getting harder and harder as he's doing all this.
So he made wind occur, maybe.
The boy turned to the hand that wrote all. As he did so, he sensed the universe had fallen silent, and he decided not to speak. A current of love rushed through his heart, and the boy began to pray. And it's just this level at which he goes into this state of prayer, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it describes it as a unique state of prayer. It's not verbal,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's kind of a meditative state.
Right.
In silence, the boy understood that the desert, the wind, the sun were also trying to understand the signs written by the hand and were seeking to follow the path. He saw the omens, but the hand had a reason for all this, and that the only hand could perform miracles or transform the sea into a desert or man into the wind. Because only the hand understood that all was a larger design that had moved the universe to the point at which 6 days of creation had evolved into a masterwork. So there's this level at which he very much is in this frame of a kind of monotheistic theism, saying there's a hand that creates the world.
Mm-hmm.
And only God creates miracles, right? And then it says, the boy reached through the soul of the world and saw that it was part of the soul of God. And he saw the soul of God was his own soul, and that he, a boy, could perform miracles.
Mm-hmm.
Never says he turns into the wind.
Oh, that's true.
Next, the summum blew that day as it had never blown before. For generations thereafter, the Arabs recounted the legend of a boy who had turned himself into the wind, almost destroying a military camp, in defiance of the most powerful chief in the desert. When the summum ceased to blow, everyone looked to the place where the boy had been, but he was no longer there. He was standing next to a sand-covered sentinel on the far side of the camp.
So it seems like it got windy.
I mean,
he ducked down and
like all the
snuck
things
over
say
to the
there
place.
could be that, like that's the story. But there's nothing in the book that says, and then he turned into the wind.
He turned into the wind. Yeah.
And it describes this scene, and then it's like, and then they rode the entire day toward the end of and they came to the Coptic monastery,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a very brief experience at the monastery and ultimately go to the pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts digging for gold.
He gets beaten up.
And then gets beaten up. And then
one of the robbers had a dream that he shared with them.
right. And that's when
Which lets him know, hey, you need to go back to your home.
And we forgot the part where the alchemist is talking to the chief and is like, hey, I can do miracles. Look. And then he's talking to Santiago. He wants to show him that miracles are possible.
Yeah.
And he turns lead into gold. And it is this classic thing in alchemy of like turning lead into gold is like the big thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're a real alchemist, you understand that turning lead into gold is only important in as much as it shows the miracle you can do,
Yeah.
right? The spiritual transformation that you undergo in
He
the
could have just
process.
turned a bunch of lead into gold and then just gone back home.
Right.
Just like you said earlier.
Right. So so he turns lead into gold, gives him some to restore his money. Yeah. And we know how this story goes, right? And then he digs and he gets robbed and
He goes back
And the-
home
And really, it's just this robber saying, "I had this dream about this church in Andalusia," and that's the opening scene is the church in Andalusia.
And the tree.
If we're leaving off the Narcissus
Yeah.
prologue, and then Santiago was like, "Oh, that's where the treasure is."
Right. And it was.
And it was.
He went back there. He dug up this treasure. This is 182 pages.
Yeah.
It is a short read. If you've been assigned this, I think you should read it and have fun. We're not giving you all the answers. There's a lot we have left
I
out.
wonder if this gets assigned much.
And this is seems to be the beginning of a series, an Alchemist series. The Warrior of the Light, The Witch in the Portobello, 11 Minutes, The Pilgrimage. There's a bunch of them here.
Yeah, I know we have The Witch in the Portobello, or have had that around the house at some point.
Have you read any of the other ones?
No, this is my first encounter with him as a writer. I mean, it was fine. I liked thinking through it. I didn't read this and feel like this was amazing. I wasn't blown away by this.
Yeah.
There was nothing in this book that really took me in the way it seemed to take so many other people I know. Right?
I wonder if they were younger when they read it.
Yeah,
I wonder if this book is really powerful for young.
I was wondering that, or it is well written, right? There's
It's a good story.
It's a good story. It has the feel of like the Arabian Nights, which I really like.
Yes.
Which have often these kind of like weird narratives that seem to have a lot of implications for interpretation, but it's also like, it's hard to tell if that's the case because like the Arabian Nights, the 1001 Nights are stories that people read and told in a culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so they aggregate, like these kinds of folk narratives aggregate elements that aren't about a single person deciding to put that element there to create this meaning, right? Yeah. It's more about kind of what a community with a bunch of different people who interpreted it. And that's part of what I love about those things. I mean, part of what I do like about this book is it seems to say, I have a message to say. At the end of the day, that message seems to be the world is a world and you got to go do your thing in it. Right?
The world is the world and you got to go do your thing in it.
Right? You know, like it's not a particularly like amazing theme in its complexity, but part of it is its simplicity is like it's a good reminder. Right.
It seems like it's saying you got to go on an adventure that takes you away from your familiar places to test your character, to learn new things, meet new people.
There does seem to be
some experience.
Yeah, there does seem to be like you got to go do your thing, and it is like there's a thing out there for you to do, right? And you got to go figure that out.
Your personal legend,
right?
Right? Isn't that what they talk about throughout the book? You have to find your personal legend.
They allude to it. I saw that kind of language of personal legend seem much more present in the conversation around the book. I mean, it's there in the book.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if that's kind of how things developed over time, if that's what he intended and talked about it as. But what is your personal legend?
What is your personal legend? Sometimes I think like you got to go out there and there's two competing maybe ideas. One is that you're good at something. You have to go out and try a bunch of different things to figure out what you're good at. And maybe that's the, dig 100 5-foot holes.
Right.
And there might be some treasure at the bottom of one of them. And this other idea for me is that you're going to get good at whatever you practice over time with consistency, continuity, and, discipline.
Right.
And that's the 500-foot hole where there's gold at the bottom of that.
Yeah.
This guy's doing a bunch of different stuff.
Well, he is, although the story, the legend is that legend about the wind at the end, right? You know, to a certain extent.
His personal legend is the wind turning.
I don't know if that's like, I'm trying to think like what makes it a legend. A legend is the story gets told over and over again,
Right.
about you.
And it's kind of magical, or it's like, you know.
And that's the moment where we have some discussion of kind of stories being told about him.
Yeah.
Like, and there's a level at which, so another thing I think about is that Santiago, he does become a force of nature, right? I mean, he becomes the wind.
He becomes,
But
literally, yeah.
But he also does this whole trajectory that transforms all these lives he touches, and it's about him, but he's constantly encountering people and shifting their trajectory, whether it's preventing the Oasis from being raided by the other tribes,
Right.
or helping the crystal merchant get his business together.
Right.
Like, he is a force of nature. He was already a force of nature. Like, there's a level at which, like, when you
As a shepherd.
yeah, he was taking care of like a lot of those.
He knew where the good grass was. He knew when to move them. He could read the soil.
So he's already doing that. There's just a level at which he didn't recognize that. And he has to go through all of this to recognize it and embrace it on a deep level. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So yeah, maybe it is a book for younger people who just need that sense of like, hey, go do your thing. Or people who are just at that point in life.
Yeah. I am awareness, conscious, whatever. I taking all this stuff, my senses, and then there's influence. There's like two things in the world. I'm influenced by whatever I take in, and then I guess there's this boundary where I either discern what to let in and what not to let in. I don't know. For some reason, that comes up as I've been reading stuff, and maybe it's the last couple weeks or months, making it really simple.
Mm-hmm.
This seems like it's a positive influence.
Yeah.
Letting people know to, believe in themselves, to follow their dreams.
Yeah, to take that step, to go do the thing and know that, like, yeah, it's not a safe journey.
It's not a safe journey. We couldn't all do that. We need somebody to tend the farm. If we all followed our journeys, is this where we self-organize as a team, or where someone's got like a farming journey, a farming dream,
right?
And someone's got like I just want to be a banker dream, and someone's got I want to repair cars dream.
I mean, part of when going back to the 4 stages of life in Vedic thought, right? When I look at that and I look at it in the whole apparatus of all the other ways that Vedic thought organizes things, there's part of me that looks at it as like it's trying to compartmentalize these disruptive things that we have to do as humans. Like, we have to learn a lot of spiritual wisdom.
Right.
We got to go do the thing and create a compartment that is like, but the majority of your life, you're a householder, right? So the 4 stages in life, they create these spaces to do the spiritual journey. But what they really do is create a big space where your obligation is to not do the spiritual journey because you're a householder, because you're doing the thing. Although that is also part of the spirit. I mean, I think that
that's part of the spiritual journey too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the idea there, is that's a necessary and essential part. That's kind of in the background here. It's not the narrative here is the student phase, I think. He goes back and lives his life in Andalusia, right? And the implication is that he's sending off for Fatima so he can start his household.
Yeah,
right. He's moving,
and he could tell his tales of his adventure,
right,
to his son or to Fatima or to his community. So now he's like,
it's not that like you have the farming journey and you've got the cool becoming the wind journey. It's more everybody's got some version of the becoming the wind journey as a foundation to doing the farming journey, right?
Right.
To living it. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to walk around to see how life is other places to know how good you have it in your home.
Right. And I think we can try to organize that and say, well, that's what you do when you're young. But I don't think it's as simple as that, right? You know, some people aren't going to find that moment where they go an adventure.
The glassmaker, the
glass 50s
glass
or
shop.
60s.
The glass shop guy never did.
And some people were just going to miss it because they're so focused on this, right?
Yeah.
Even though you're not doing it well. I mean, that's part of the crystal dude. Like that's part of his.
Yeah, he wasn't crystal selling very well.
Right. Like he's got an obligation to do this thing he's not doing well. Right.
He probably would benefit from that journey to Mecca, but he'll never do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It would give him the perspective that would allow him to really
love the crystal job,
have the discernment and love, but also have the discernment to see what's important and what's not. That like, yeah, you got to move stuff to the front. Right. That gaining of practical wisdom.
Yeah. Some of us will hear the call and follow it. Some of us won't. Hey,
good news.
What's good news?
They just did a huge study of like 600,000 undergraduates.
Mm-hmm. What'd they find out?
That if you study philosophy, if you take a philosophy class, you learn to think better.
Really?
Yeah.
You learn to think good. They did a study with
there's just
how many? 6,000?
I think it was like 600,000.
600,000.
Like they just basically who took philosophy classes, how did they do on these various things of
they brought in other
development,
data,
put it in comparison with like
when did this just come out?
It just came out in I think it's the APA journal. There's a blog entry on it on The Conversation, and I've seen a lot of things. I want to go read the actual study now.
Philosophy makes you learn good.
Yeah. So philosophy makes you do knowledge work better. Yeah.
There's a reason we were doing this.
Yeah. So
I watched, what was it? No, I did
philosophy classes.
Take philosophy classes.
It'll make you think better.
I think another thing we'll share with our guests here is that if you have kids, I learned something in a parenting class. Did you know about synaptic pruning?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, me neither. I hadn't known about it. Look it up. If you've got kids, get them in environments where they learn a lot of different things. Because at a certain point, if you teach them sports, if you teach them music, if you teach them, art, all those things when they're young, their brain will keep areas that if they don't exercise them will be synaptically pruned at a certain stage of development.
Yeah,
it's kind of a use it or lose it situation.
That makes sense. And
that's why these kids that do gymnastics and do all this stuff when they're really young, they do music, all this stuff, they end up being really good at that because they actually have parts of their brain that's lost through the synaptic pruning phase.
Right, and it's pretty early.
Yeah. So get them listening to jazz, playing any kind of instrument, coloring, Yeah,
I think that's generally just good advice.
I think it's good advice.
Is to, especially in early, really focus on exposure, right? Exposure to a lot of different kinds of ways of thinking, a lot of different ways of being, a lot of different kinds of people. I mean, I remember one of the things that we did with our kid was like, we were very intentional about trying to make sure that they, at an early phase, not only socialize with other kids, but socialize with a lot of different adults.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that many kids right now lack is a parenting style that emphasizes connecting with a lot of different kinds of adults and having relationships with a lot of different, that teach them different things. Some teaching them this thing or that thing, and it just that. And I do feel like, as I watch, without being too generalized about it, kids grow up with my kid that I've seen, like the kids that were like in kid world, their whole childhood are struggling a lot more to put the world together now that they're all in middle school than the kids who had a lot more adult world in their kid world.
Well, part of the Joseph Campbell's Campbell, I say Zen, his hero's journey, part of that is the older mentor.
Yeah.
Having some relationship with an adult that's not your parents.
Right.
That is able to impart. Because I think your parents you put in a certain box, right? It's maybe hard for you to learn
exactly.
There's like, you self-differentiate at a certain point.
Right. And they're such a dominant influence. You've got to break away from them.
And so it's this other person that's not of your family that mentors and guides in a healthy, wholesome way. And so that's what I hear when you're speaking about exposing alchemy to these other people to teach her different things, to other ways of life.
And I think, and I just I find it so, I mean, it's kind of like the nonsense, like DC is a cesspool of crime when crime statistics are the lowest they've ever been. Right.
Yeah.
Right now. Like I encounter a lot of parents who are like, oh, but the world is so dangerous for kids right now, right?
It's probably the safest it's ever been.
Yeah, it's the safest it's been for kids, right? Like this is when we should be letting them go and roam more, because like when I was a kid, that's what I mean.
But then
kids died routinely.
Yeah.
You know, we glorify the sort of Gen X drinking from the water hose, but people were getting hurt. People were getting abducted at much higher rates than they are now. So yeah,
maybe if we let them all run out there, they would start getting hurt again, because all the people would be like, well, there's kids
I do wonder about that. Like
there's kids everywhere.
Right.
I'm going to grab a couple.
Right. That how much of those are reflective of this more protective parenting stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Are we protecting them more so it's happening less? And if we protected them a little bit less,
but in a context in which overall crime rates are going down and whatnot, I think it's just a safer world out there. Although we're doing a lot right now to try to make it less safe.
Heck yeah. Let's talk just about to appease.
Yeah, we got to wind up soon because I got
to appease the people on the TikToks. Let's just talk about Ronald Reagan for a minute.
I mean, what do we want to say about Ronald Reagan?
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the people there's obviously an appetite for Ronald Reagan based content.
I get that.
And they think that he's the root of all of America's problems.
He fundamentally changed the federal system.
Yeah. So he is.
And I think we were hitting, look, coming out of the 1970s, we had a lot of problems with a set of social structures that were set up to do good that were disintegrating.
Talking about the New Deal.
Right. I mean, if we go back to the New Deal.
Great Society.
Or Great Society, like all that kind of, that notion that, hey, there's problems in the world and we can work together.
Yeah.
In state and local and federal government to try to solve this through programs and policy. Right. And to some extent, and that was hitting some real railroads in the 70s, right? You had major public union strikes where people were facing like their police and firefighters saying, we're going on strike and your houses are going to burn down.
Right.
You know, like you had the OPEC oil crisis where people were like facing the reality of the energy dependence framework we had developed. Right. And I do think we were at a time when there were difficult, but probably far more effective solutions that we could have developed. And I do think when we look around the world at this was not unique to the United States. It's the world system was shaking up in a post-World War II way. Like England was going through the same thing,
right.
Europe, and different countries chose different ways to try to address that. Reagan provided an easy narrative to people that it's all about big government, bureaucrats that you can't trust.
Yeah.
Causing the problems.
Regulation is the problem.
Regulation is the problem. Like, which is sort of nonsense. Like, hey, like the problem is that we make some common agreements about how we're going to organize ourselves around each other.
Yeah.
Like there may be problems with the regulations. And I think that's a lot of the problem with people face when they go to like there are bad regulations and there are good regulations. Right. And bad regulations can be worse than no regulations. Right. So like that's a reality. But the solution to bad regulations isn't destroy regulations.
Yeah. It's
any more than like, if you're living in, you have a relationship with someone and things aren't working, do you abandon that thing? Like coming back to the friendship.
The devotional.
Right. Do you abandon that friendship because things aren't working out, or do you work it out?
Yeah.
And instead of working it out, he said, well, abandon your friendship with the government.
Well, I think that's what been what people do.
And restructured the way we think about government. And I think this is like the original sin of where we are now.
Reagan, he had us thinking government was bad and they're all crooks and they're taking our money and that kind of sentiment.
Right. He said it's the people versus the government, not a government that serves the people.
Right.
And if it's not serving the people, that we need to bring that back into service to the people, right? It is just bad. It's just the thing you're fighting.
It's bad, so we need to make it as small
Right.
as possible.
And the problem is that there were a number of vicious elements, crazy people who really just wanted to turn the whole world into their vision of a theocracy.
This is the Heritage.
Yeah.
The Heritage Foundation.
Focus on the family, like, you know, the real organization that sat behind him in Southern California and then led to his political success.
Yeah.
He emboldened them to say, our vision of the world needs to be everyone's vision of the world, right? And that's like, that is the heart of what of the evil there is.
That evangelical?
A segment, but then that he allowed that segment of evangelical Christianity to capture the narrative. I mean, like I study evangelical Christians.
Yeah.
They're one of the most diverse groups spiritually that you'll find in the United States, partly because they're non-denominational, right? You'll find, and kind of our common narrative about what evangelical Christianity is that's developed around this sort of fundamentalist framework is a small segment of that community. Like, most evangelical Christians they're focused on this salvation faith narrative, typically, and an idea of witnessing to others and bringing the good news to the rest of the world, right? That's there. But for a huge number of them, that's about making the world better in a way that is truly loving, truly engaged, and truly about building a world together.
Yeah.
And tolerates that not everyone is on that same boat with them.
Well, how would that match to what Reagan did? It seemed like he divides.
So he divides up the world by saying, this is who we need to be, this strident evangelicalism, this evangelicalism that is about making sure everyone gets in the stream with us, right? That is about establishing a Christian nation. And at the same time, he makes this alliance with wealthy people and deregulate. I mean, like, my first industry, banking. I mean, this is why I think he's the root of it, is we had an extremely well-regulated financial system in terms of basic banking in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Right? And it had really, really guardrails that segmented off investment banking from the banking you do when you go, you know, and
checking account, saving account. That's
because, you know, there's this thing, like as a bank, you are in this huge financial advantage over everybody else because you're just holding on to everyone's money.
And you're making up money.
Right. And you're making up money. And, you know, up to that point, the idea was like, you need to be bound so you don't go pollute the marketplace with your finances, because that'll financialize the marketplace and unhinge it from production.
Right.
That's where we are now. Like 80% of capital is in global financial markets that have nothing to do with actual production.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't have an economic system. We have a financial system, because an economic system is about the production of goods and services and distribution of goods and services.
Yeah, we got millions of dollars wrapped up in NFTs.
Right. And they're just like,
this is just like
it's all vaporware. And that's the threat we have right now, is that we have invested so much of our framework in what is really still, I'm looking at it, it's like, this is a 50-year bubble of bloat. He deregulated the banking industry.
He deregulated the banking
to make that happen.
Yeah.
He deregulated so much that just basically unhinged, because regulation helped tie capital to production better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then didn't he do the mental health industry where he kicked all the people out of, he like shut down a bunch of state hospitals and
right,
he dropped people off.
And that was, and again, like, that's sort of a misguided, there was a problem with institutionalization, right?
Right.
People were being institutionalized who probably shouldn't have been.
Probably.
Right.
Right.
You know, and the state was being heavy-handed with that, and it was very expensive. And, you know, all those things were real. But it's this sort of like, if your house needs some work, you don't tear down your house.
Burn down the house, yeah.
Right?
How can we make this better?
right? And he said, we can burn down the house and then we can build these palaces. And what's kind of like what we've been doing since the 1980s, but the fact is the houses are still burning and the palaces are getting greater and greater concentration into an extremely wealthy oligarchic class.
And it seems like
that wants to cut us off from any kind of real democracy.
But when I looked from Reagan until today, it seemed like the Republican Party and the Democratic Party were both working together in that.
I mean, I don't think it's that conspiratorial.
I don't know about conspiratorial, but it seemed like
that's both, what I mean. Like, is he restructured the federal system and he restructured electoral politics, and an entire class of political advisors emerged that basically said, yeah, you got to raise money with the people who have money. You got to run these big campaigns. You got to attack the people.
Right.
Like, the entire framework seems to have shifted at that point that leads in a through line to where we are now. But I do remember when Trump was first elected, I was just like, Reagan to here. This is really just the fulfillment of the Reagan project, right?
Really, the fulfillment of
is
it.
To get this sort of, from a Hollywood actor who had some real political experience to a reality show actor who has no political experience, right? It's just like, this was the groundwork for this. This is the fulfillment of this. This is the beginning of, like, we'll just create a lot of smoke and mirrors and be the great communicator, right? To, we're just going to go full throttle and we're going to take away your democracy.
Because it doesn't seem like he's got a lot of...
and we're going to take away your,
governing ability.
Yeah, now we're in a situation where a bunch of people are in charge who are trying to sell off our country.
And are probably.
And steal it, right? They're just stealing.
And
they're
probably are.
I mean, it's a kleptocracy, right? It's just,
Yeah. It is interesting, this using troops and stuff, federal troops in D.C. and
it's downright frightening.
Calling them into California. From the reports I hear, they say that this is him wanting to get the American population comfortable or used to having military people on our streets.
Yeah,
which seems scary.
It is.
Why should we have military people on our streets?
Yeah.
Military is used for wars.
Yeah.
Why would they be around citizens?
And I think it's explicitly around a pretense that is not real, because he's getting us used to that, right? Because, I mean, what he has done is, well, he and his cadre has basically set a whole set of emergency powers, right? He's operating under all these emergency powers,
right,
which technically can be invoked as emergency powers when there's an emergency.
What was the emergency?
The emergency in DC. Oh, it's the crime is terrible.
Is that an emergency?
That's what he's saying, right? Is that crime is terrible and we need to get back our cities. Again, like so many other emergencies, he's saying something and there's no evidence for it. But our judicial system has basically been flooded with these Federalist Society types who believe in a unitary executive, who are like, oh, the only person who can decide what an emergency is the president because that's his power, instead of actually seeing the traditional role of the judiciary to be a check on that, right?
He gets to decide what's an emergency.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, and it is years of placing ideologies that are toxic to democracy into law schools, years of building think tanks, years of all of this that goes back to the 80s. And some of it is, if you look into it, explicit, like, we need to do this to take over the democracy, to create the theocracy for God that needs to be here to be a Christian nation. I don't think that's driving everything, but that's part of what's in that framework. And some of the most vicious actors right now, they don't want a country of laws. They don't want a country that is driven by popular sovereignty. They want a church.
That's where I kind of step off of that train.
I stepped off of it a lot long before that. Yeah, and that never works out well.
It seems like one of our founding principles was a separation between church and state.
Well, and what's ironic is if you look at the development of the political apparatus that got people like Reagan into power and really drove the Republican Party, it happened really around A lot of the people who developed that political apparatus cut their teeth in the Southern Baptist Convention during the conservative takeover of the Southern Baptist Convention. So the Southern Baptist Convention, always one of the most conservative denominations, mainline denominations in the country.
Yeah.
But in the 70s and 80s, there's this real machination in which the hardcore conservatives, like people don't realize, like there was a period of time when you had women preachers in the Southern Baptist churches. That was done away with. You had a much more diverse set of theological and social understandings within the Southern Baptist Convention. That was done away with because a group of hardcore conservatives in the democratic process, the Southern Baptist Convention is a Congregationalist convention. So they have a whole used that democratic process to take over, but also cut their teeth on how to manipulate a democratic process to take over, right? And yeah, that's not like if your goal is to take over, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a socialist, a capitalist, or whatnot, if your goal is to take over,
instead of just to serve people,
you are not believing in democracy. Like, I don't want the progressives to take over. I want a strong progressive voice in the process by which we as a community make decisions for ourselves.
Well, it seems like we lost those voices at post-Reagan.
Yes. And part of why
talks about the DNC
right.
Being formed and then being pretty much the moderates and the conservatives of that Democratic Party. And we almost like pruned.
My commitment politically to far more radically progressive agendas is much more about balancing out that loss than
which we needed
a rejection of, say, free market economics. Because, for example, like I tend to lean towards good regulation, more socialist style distribution of wealth. That's as a corrective. I don't think markets are bad.
Yeah.
I think markets do good things in their context, right? And I do think we were on a good part of it was an imperialist project that has its own ramifications that we need to kind of sort through ethically.
Right.
But we were on a good trajectory coming out of the combination of the New Deal framework, which really built a true mixed economy across a federalist system.
Mm-hmm.
Like people often talk about the New Deal as this sort of like big federal program that was taken. But I mean, it was really constructed to be a federalist program of cooperation between states and the federal government.
Yeah.
And we were doing that, right? We were building the premier public, not education system, research system in the world, right? Coming out of the 30s and the New Deal and into the 50s and 60s. That combined with a global ascendancy of the United States as a power.
After World War II.
No question that contributed to it as well. We tend to overemphasize that. What we tend to not realize is how much the economic success of the 1950s and 1960s, the global economic dominance of the United States until really the 90s, and now it's disintegrating. I mean, like the fact is, it was fragile. I think Trump has done so much damage. We will never be the global economic power we were in our lifetimes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The world economy is going to be driven by other countries' interests. China,
India,
maybe the European Union, maybe India. Like there's a variety of places, and maybe that's a better system, but I don't know. There's enough of me that still has a little bit of real politic around international politics, that's like, I don't know that we're not going to have a system where one of those becomes the dominant force. And I hope it's a dominant force that's good.
Yeah.
And not, but it's going to we let go of that power, right? We just did that. We just did that in the last, the tariffs have destroyed our power. The dismantling of U.S. aid has destroyed our power. All we have now to assert power in the world is our military.
We got to get one of those.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, do we?
Well, it's funded.
We have a very large military.
But that's not a good way to influence people, is to be like, I got a big military. Right. I got a bunch of bombs.
We have a lot. We have a really well funded military. We have a lot of fancy equipment.
Right.
We have used it internationally. Has it really done what we need?
I don't know.
Right? Like, because what we look at right now is a history of especially post-Reagan, a lot of wars that never fulfilled their objectives.
That's right. In the Middle East and different places. Yeah.
I'm not to discredit the service of especially the rank and file soldiers, and Marines and whatnot on the ground, and the genuineness with what. And this is a lot of my opinion on this comes from talking to my vet students, right? Because when I talk to my vet students, if there's anyone cynical about the effectiveness of our military, it's the people who actually served.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the ones who are like, I had no idea what we're doing. We're setting for nonsense objectives because of political reasons. Like, I begin to believe that when we say we have the best military, it's just sunk cost fallacy. We've just invested so much blood and treasure and myth into our military that we're not brave enough to say, hey, this institution is not working for us in the way we've set it up.
We got some work to do as a people, as a country.
Yeah. And that's hard work because to really do work as a people, to really do work as a community means you have to resist that will to power. You have to resist that ability to say, I've got the solution. And if you're not on board with my solution, whether it's conservative or progressive or anything, that you're out. You're not part of the community. You don't get to have an opinion.
Right.
The only thing that will save us, I think, is learning how to talk to each other better.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Relating
and relating to people that we wouldn't normally relate to.
Right. Problem solving together.
Right. And refocusing on problems. It's like I feel about the Texas legislature. Like I work a lot in an industry where I work with a lot of the legislation that comes out around higher education. There is so much nonsense higher education legislation that came out of the Texas legislature.
Really? This year?
This year, the last legislature said it's all culture war nonsense that's really undermining the good work that is being supported by really well-crafted legislation that the same legislature put together, right? Like some of the legislation and framework we have in Texas around workforce development and higher education, really well-designed, bipartisan work, right?
Yeah.
We can work together to do good for our communities. No one votes on that. No one talks about that in the news. When was the last time, you heard major news conversations about HB8, which restructured our entire way we fund community colleges in the right direction? Came out of the same legislation that gave us SB 17, that anti-DEI nonsense, right?
Yeah.
With the same people working on it. Right? One is undermining education. One is really helping make it work better for people to make sure that like, hey, if you come to our colleges and you want to get somewhere, we're really oriented on getting you there in a good way. I mean, there's some problems with it, like it's performance funding, so it creates some of the vicious incentives, but the people who work in that, the people in the agencies, they understand that. They're trying to make it work.
Yeah.
We can do things well in a system, right, of governance if we stop saying the problem is the government.
Right.
Like the problem with the rules is that there's rules, right? No, it's like, and that we don't recognize that the government is an extension of our political will, and we have a responsibility to make sure it does that.
Yes.
And two, that we need to be more focused on what are the real problems in front of us.
Yeah. I think we get confused because we get exhausted of the problem.
Yeah.
And probably the wrong ones. Like, should people be allowed to be gay? Or should people, racism, all this other things. Those aren't really, there's struggles that are real and need to be addressed. But like, is the water drinkable? And are kids getting educated? A lot of that type of stuff. That's
our systems working the way they should be to make us have a prosperous life together?
Yeah.
And, that doesn't neglect the reality of some of the things that get caught up in the culture war debates, right?
Right.
There's real problems to be solved there, but we're not, because it's been framed as a culture war, we're not actually focused on solving problems. We're focused on who's going to win. Are they even
problems? And this isn't even a problem because I don't acknowledge those people.
I don't think Reagan is responsible for it all.
You don't?
No. He is a kind of mythic embodiment, and he has a role to play of a deep change. I mean, come on, like part of the problem is that every year even more so than the last year when we come to elections, the media treats it like it's a sports match.
Oh, yeah.
They're not talking about policies. They're not talking about what's going to happen that will make our life, better or worse. They're not doing anything except saying this team is winning, that team's not winning. Hey, the poll
They want it
says
to be
this.
entertaining. Yeah, they want it to be
It's like,
entertaining.
who's going to win, right? And it's like, it's also just misguided. And partly it's just easy. Those are easy statistics to get. It's easy. It's lazy. Like I can go look at voter polls easily. The harder reporting is actually to get into the nuance and the analysis of the policy. The harder reporting is to look at, what's going on in the world. The easy reporting is on the numbers of who voted for who and who's ahead and what.
This person said somebody was fat.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's in some ways, if Reagan's responsible for that, he just helped create the context in which we could all be more lazy and said, it's okay, you can be lazy. We got this handled. We're taking down the big bad government. Just let us take care of it. We got you. We're going to take down the bad.
We're going to take down we're going to drain the swamp.
We're going to drain the swamp, right? Turns out the swamp was actually what pays your, Medicare and makes sure that your water tap works.
Well, we'll see in the months and years to come the impact of the big beautiful bill. And
yeah, it's going to be interesting times. It's funny because when you look at the structure of that, it also looks like it's designed to make the a lot of things that it does, it delays until after the next election cycle. Like they know it's going to create problems.
So they're going to make sure that
that
Republicans
that if someone else gets elected, it can be blamed on them, even though it comes. Yeah,
it's like a time bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, what book are we going to read next? We got to come up with a book.
I don't know. What do you want to read?
I don't know. I looked into that Reagan book, but you're right. That takes us in a whole nother direction.
Yeah, if we want to start reading political analysis and economic analysis and social analysis, we can do that.
It might be appropriate. It might be.
We definitely looked at some books last time that had that element.
Which ones? Like the history of the world?
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's always going to be ideas there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could definitely do something like that. I don't know. I just like reading books with you and talking about.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Ideas.
I'm definitely down with that.
I don't think this was the most rich in ideas. As part of what's nice about it is that it's an easy kind of gentle philosophical read.
Yeah,
there's not a
singular. It seemed like a singular type of
not a lot of challenging ideas.
Right.
You could make it challenging by digging, but that's the point. Like the texts become good places for conversation because it provides us a focus point to reference our conversation that isn't you, that isn't me, and doesn't make it all about us, but about a subject we're investigating.
Yeah.
But we're investigating with the text. It's not like we're doing some sort of literary analysis or, so I think we could read anything.
Yep.
And have a good conversation.
We just need to find that, what that anything is.
Do anyone ever comment about books they would like us to read?
I don't think so.
Well, y'all could be helpful.
Like
if you've gotten this far in today's conversation,
if you've got a
you
book,
clearly are a loyal listener.
That's right.
At least loyal in this moment. And if there's something you just think it'd be great to hear Phil and Grant talk about, feel free to put that in the comments.
Maybe I'll do a little forum and ask folks to contribute. I think that's a good idea.
But in the meantime, we can figure something.
We'll figure out something. But I think we should have an ongoing call to action for folks to submit a book. Yeah, what do you think would be fun?
Like if you think something's out there that's cool to read,
because then
what do you want to talk about next?
I don't know.
Do you want to talk about something social? Do you want to talk about
I like social stuff.
Do you want to talk about the fundamental nature of reality? Like what is the kind of stuff that you want to talk about?
I like relational, social, that type of stuff. Seems to be cool.
Yeah.
Communal, I like spiritual stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to do that round table with the yogis.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be fun. I haven't seen you up at the studio.
I haven't been there yet. I'm still man, I just part of it's excuse, but a part of it's just
you've been going places doing things.
Well, it's that I really do work an 8 to 5 schedule.
Sunday they have yoga for stress reduction.
Right. No,
it is really
I love that. And I love the 6 o'clock yin yoga on Monday nights. but it's just like it's that like I get home, I got to make dinner for the kids.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah,
like there's just a life,
you're a householder.
and I'm just like I gotta. What I realized is that I just gotta like look about 2 or 3 weeks ahead and start
Put it on
getting
your
the
calendar.
yoga on my calendar
That's
so that I don't end up booking something else, like hanging out with you on a Sunday morning instead of going to yoga.
oh, don't do that.
But that's like you've gotten that with me, like when you're trying to schedule with me, like
Yeah.
you're like I got to book with you like 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah, we got to book ahead. Well, I think planning ahead is part of life.
And yeah, I think the other thing I find is like when I do have those moments when I want to go physically engage, I want to go into the garden.
You want to go to the garden. You want to commune with nature
And
and with your plants.
So I'm also giving myself permission to just be like, that's my practice right now. Is
Yeah.
really, hauling. Well, it's and I'm hauling stuff around, right? I'm doing a big, I'm doing a big mulching project right now.
Yeah.
So
Literal. Yeah.
right, like so it is physically engaging on a
That's good.
good level.
Yeah.
So
Getting some movement in.
all right.
Phil Phails at Philosophy Book Club with Grant Potts. Our subject today has been The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
I think it was you is what I like.
Coelho?
But yeah,
Coelho?
correct us. We
Correct
love
us.
correction.
Yeah, send us a phonetic spelling of this. It's been a lot of fun talking about The Alchemist. It was an enjoyable read. You guys read it. It's super fast. It's simple. It's a nice little tale about Santiago, the boy, and his journey. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
And we'll come up with a new book and
Talk about more things.
keep this stuff going. Yeah.
All right.
You're going to end in a hug?
Yeah, that's right.
Just swivel this around. Boom. All right,
I
Grant.
just got to do this.
You got to throw the...